At 29, he wasn't just arriving late, he was arriving with the weight of a nation on his shoulders. When was officially announced as latest GP recruit, it wasn't just another transfer. It was a moment of reckoning. A three-time WorldSBK champion, beloved for his jaw-dropping braking, unshakable confidence, and spectacular, was finally stepping into the spotlight of the premier class. But there was a catch: he was entering GP not as a rising prodigy, but as its oldest rookie. In a grid that thrives on youth, algorithms, and rapid adaptation, age isn't just a number. It's a warning sign. By the time most riders hit 29, they've either won races or disappeared. Yet here was defying that very arc. His career had never followed convention. Trained under the watchful eye of his stuntman father, learned to control motorcycles in ways few could replicate. His rise in WorldSBK was both electric and violent, upsetting dynasties and shattering expectations. But GP doesn't hand out respect for past achievements. And inside the paddock, whispers began to spread. Could this WorldSBK hero really adapt to the brutal complexity of GP bikes, electronics, and politics? Or was placing their final chips on a move, one that could either rejuvenate their future or haunt them for years? And yet the doubts weren't just coming from the media, they were already echoing inside's own garage. The cheers hadn't even faded before the first shot was fired, and it came from a former rival. Was one of the first to welcome into the premier class. The two shared more than just a love for late braking, they shared history, had trained with him at the ranch, he'd seen boldness firsthand. "He reminds me of myself," once said. It was a glowing endorsement from a legend. But just as excitement surged, stepped forward, and his words cut through the noise. He's a star, in GP he's just another rider. Coming from a man who had raced in both worlds, the message was clear: would need more than talent to survive here. It wasn't just about speed. GP demanded adaptation, electronics, tire management, politics. Riders could be fast but still fail. Warning carried a weight the media couldn't ignore. The pressure shifted quickly. The narrative flipped from celebration to skepticism. And inside, the pressure was building for a different reason. This signing hadn't been unanimous. Didn't just join, he walked into a team desperately searching for answers. Since 2021's trajectory had been alarming. Once dominant with leading the charge, the team had fallen behind's technical revolution. Their four-engine lacked power, their electronics lagged, and internal leadership faced increasing scrutiny. His frustration was becoming public. He wanted changes, he wanted updates, but cornered by development restrictions and internal delays, had few cards to play. Signing wasn't just about bringing a star on board, it was a calculated risk. A rider known for raw feel, technical feedback, and relentless aggression might give the edge they had lost. Yet some insiders believed the move wasn't purely strategic. Behind closed doors, some sources suggested it was a political decision, meant to show action, to revive fan interest, to create noise. But was really the answer to a bike that even world champions struggled to ride? And that question began tearing cracks in the garage long before he ever touched the track. He was supposed to unite the team, but before the first test, the divide had already begun. Wasn't the factory team, but it was backed directly by, on paper, would get factory-level support. In reality, the picture was messier. Some engineers were skeptical. His data from WorldSBK didn't match GP expectations. His crew chief was unfamiliar with the complex GP electronics suite. Misalignment began early. Tension built quietly. Some team members believed needed to change his style. Others wanted to redesign the bike around him. Had seen this before, conflicting philosophies ruining momentum. The garage wasn't speaking one language. And then came the moment of truth, pre-season testing. The first time would face GP machinery, everyone held their breath. But when he rolled out onto the track, what the telemetry showed left the garage stunned. The stopwatch didn't lie, but what it revealed was what expected. In his first runs, his braking markers were almost absurd. He was stopping the bike deeper than anyone else on the grid. Engineers couldn't believe the data. He was taking GP machinery into corners like it was still. But with that came consequences. The bike reacted differently. He struggled on corner exit, especially with traction. The rear tire would step out violently. The electronics had to be recalibrated again and again. And yet, there was something magical about his feel. Even as he struggled, he never lost control. He rides on instinct, one mechanic said. It's not always fast, but it's fearless. By the end of the test, he wasn't setting top times, but he was being watched. The paddock knew he wasn't ordinary. The question was whether he could convert that chaos into speed before the window closed. Because the countdown to 2027 had already begun, and time was not on his side. In GP, time is brutal, and had just 2 seasons to prove the impossible. The 2027 season would bring sweeping rule changes. reduced aero-spec electronics devices, development would freeze. For this meant one brutal reality: adapt fast or fade out. He didn't just have to learn the bike, he had to shape it. Engineers were relying on his feedback to prepare for a future where riders would have more control and less assistance. It should have been an advantage for someone like him, but the window was tight. 2 years, no more. Meanwhile, younger riders were rising through too. Hungry, fast, marketable, contracts were already being drafted, riders already being tested in private. His position wasn't secure, it was conditional. And just as he began to settle, made a bold mid-season shift that threatened to unravel it all. When the new aero arrived, said what others wouldn't, he didn't want it. Introduced a major aero package mid-season. More downforce, more stability, less feel, hated it. He claimed it muted the front tire feedback, his biggest strength. He pushed to go back to the old spec. Some engineers were frustrated. This is GP, you adapt. But others quietly agreed, had struggled to balance development and rider comfort for years. Now they faced a rider pushing back publicly. Tensions rose, race results remained inconsistent. One weekend he was top 10, the next he was fighting the bike. Fans online began taking sides. Let him ride his way, one said. He's not good enough, another posted. But then came a weekend that silenced everyone, and it started with rain. No one expected him to win, not on that track, not in those conditions, but never cared about expectations. In a wet race chaos unfolded, riders crashed, lines disappeared, and into the storm came. He wasn't the fastest, but he was the bravest. He braked later, laned deeper, and launched overtakes where others backed off. By lap 10, he was in the top 5. By lap 17, he was chasing the leaders. The cameras couldn't stop following him. This was the everyone had feared and waited for. He finished third, his first podium. The garage exploded, even his critics stood to applaud, and they finally believed. But while the world celebrated, his management had already begun internal discussions about 2027 and wasn't in the first draft. GP doesn't wait, and neither do its contracts. As the 2027 season approached, was already scouting. Two stars had tested with the factory team. One insider claimed they were looking for the next, not the next. Knew he felt it, media questions became sharper. Was he consistent enough? Was he too emotional in development meetings? Was his peak already behind him? Social media was split. Some demanded give him a full chance. Others argued he was holding the seat for someone younger. His contract had a performance clause, top 8 overall or review. The season finale approached. Everything would come down to one weekend. And then made their decision, and it didn't leak. It exploded. He wasn't told first, the paddock was. Reports surfaced, had signed a new rookie for 2028. His contract would not be renewed. It wasn't performance, it was direction. They wanted youth, predictability, compliance. Stayed silent. Then on race day, he rode like a man with nothing left to lose. Every corner was a message. Every overtake a memory etched into asphalt. He finished P4, his highest dry result. In park, he didn't smile, but he nodded. It was enough. Some careers end with titles, others with tragedy, but ended with electricity. He didn't change GP with stats, but with style, with courage, with raw, unfiltered belief. Because sometimes, a rider doesn't need a crown to become unforgettable. They just need one moment that refuses to fade.